We're going to start Yud Bais on the Bais, 12b. Amra, exactly. It's, if you have a Gemara like this, it's 4 lines in the middle, sort of wide lines, 4 lines down. Amra Bavo ben Zutzasi. On the side of my Gemara, it says it's supposed to be Amra Bavo and Zutzasi, but either of them I'm not so familiar with. So. Amra Yehuda bar Zvida. It says the name of Rabbi Yehuda bar Zvida. They wanted to establish that we would say Parshas Balak, the section of the curses of blessings of Bilam in Kriya Shema. The Gemara is going to ask why would they want to do that, but that we'll see in a moment. But why didn't they do it? Mishum Terech Tzibur, because of the Tircha. This would be too long. We'll see why we couldn't just say a small section of it. My timer. Gemara's question is, why did they want to do that? It's very interesting. Parshas Balak, when the Gemara Bava Basra discusses who wrote which sections of the Torah. So it says Moshe Rabbeinu Kasav Sifrei and Nevuas Balak or something. And Nevuas Bilam. It's like that has like its own. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Torah and the Nevuah of Bilam, which sounds like there was another book somewhere, or maybe it's so significant that it gets its own. It doesn't say he wrote Sifrei and also Parshas Naya. It doesn't say that. Okay, well, he was a prophet, Bilam. So, in my time, why did they want to institute this? Eily, the God that took them out of Egypt. Oh, so we're going to talk about Egypt. That's important. We mentioned that in Shema. We could have said Parshas Balak. It says Lema Parshas Ribbis and Parshas Mishkalis. So why wasn't the thought to say the section about taking interest, which says that I am the God that took you out of Egypt, or the section that says that you need to have proper weights and measures? It says it's time there as well. Elam Rabbi Yosi Baravin. Rabbi Yosi Baravin says, because it says the following pasuk: Kara shachav kari, crouches, lays down like a lion.
Back to the lion.
Yeah. And he gets up like a lion. Lavi was, I think, it's a young lion, like a lion. Who can raise him up? That's referring to. Masha explains this, that laying down is referring to Kriya Shema at night, and Miyakimeno is referring to Kriya Shema in the morning. Gemara says, so, why don't you just say this passage? He said, why don't we institute this? We didn't institute it because it was too long. He said, okay, well, just say that passage. That would be a condensed version of what's important in the Shema. It says, Gemiri, we've been taught that Kol Parsha the Pasuk Moshe Rabbeinu Paskinan. Any section that Moshe Rabbeinu, where he has the end of the paragraph, that's where we ended also. The late Pasuk Moshe Rabbeinu late Paskinan. But if it's not the end of the paragraph, then we don't stop there. Now, there's a problem here because we do stop in different places when we're reading the Torah. We do stop. And we say, we don't have to end. We don't have to end if it's far from what's it called? Psucha or stuma. We will end over there. Could be that when we're reading the Torah, it's different than if you recite it every day. Reading the Torah, we'll say, well, I'll continue it the next Aliyah, I'll continue it next week, I'll continue it on Shabbos if I think that's different. Parshas Tzitzis, Mipnei Makavua. Why did we establish Parshas Tzitzis in the Shema? Rabbi Yehuda bar Chaviva in the Parshas Vayomer. Rabbi Yehuda bar Chaviva says because it has 5 things in the section of Vayomer. Problem here is we're about to list 6 things, and one of them is going to have to go. we'll join it with say, oh, that's let's take a look. The first one is mitzvah tzitzis. Okay, that's important. There's a mitzvah there. Tzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus, all mitzvahs. We'll see where it says that. Das minim. So it looks like we're already on 4. Minim is heretics, like not to follow the heretics' thoughts. Hira Avera, not to think of Avera, that would be 5. The Hira Avodah Zarah would be not to think of Avodah Zarah, of idolatry is 6. But you have 2 options here on how to deal with this issue, and the Gemara says 5 and there's 6. One is you do all mitzvahs and das minim together. So you don't follow the heretics, you accept the mitzvahs. Or you do Hira Avera and Hira Avodah Zarah together, that control the thoughts. And that would be one. That's how the Mefarshim resolve this. Gemara says, Bishla Mahani class Mefarshan. We understand the first 3. It says, All mitzvahs, tiksiv, Re'isim there's a Chatibas coming to Hashem. It says, you'll see the tzitzis and you'll remember all the mitzvahs. Okay, good. So that it has in the Parsha Vayomer, accepting the mitzvahs. Tzitzis, tiksiv, Vasalem tzitzis. It says, make tzitzis. And Yitzias Mitzrayim, Diksiv Asher Yitzesi. It says that I took you out of Egypt. So that's clearly in there. Eladas minim, Hira Avera, and Hira Avodah Zarah minolan. How do you know that you have that? From this question, it looks like Hira Avera and Hira Avodah Zarah goes together. Because otherwise, I would have already had all mitzvahs. And if all mitzvahs and das minim go together, I would have already resolved that. It must be that's... Okay. The time, because it was started in a Bais, after your heart, zuminus. It's referring to heresy. That the novel, I guess, means like a disgusting one. What does it say over there? Novel. The degraded man. He said, the degraded man says in his heart. You see the heart? That's where minus takes place. That's where heresy takes place. The degraded man says in his heart, there is no God. Menachem, after your eyes, Zehir Avera. This means thoughts of sin. Shenemar, V'yemer Shimshon alav v'vaisa kachli ki yeshar beinai. Shimshon tells his father, I want that woman because she is nice and, I don't remember if this was Kalila or one of the other wives. Because she's pretty in my eyes. In other words, that's where the sin began. And Atim Zainim, that you stray Zehir Avodah Zarah. This is the thoughts of idolatry. That they strayed after the Baal, and the straying is referring to idolatry. Okay. I know
Shimshon was a Gilgal of Nadab.
Nadav and Aviv?
Yeah.
How do you know that? Where does it say that?
I can only remember.
Malach forgot to pinch you.
Yeah, what I remember. Yeah.
Okay.
Google it.
Gilgalet.
Yeah. That was good. Give him a cup.
Okay. So that could be a good website for Gilgalet. Gilgalet.
Quick.
Now,
Go Daddy.
there's a the Mishnah Brura in the Bir Halacha at the beginning, he brings in the Sefer Achinuch when it says L'Sur Achrei Menachem, over here it says Zehir Avera, he adds in, usually you assume that this is referring to women, or here he says it has to do with any item that you might want to desire and purchase. There goes all of those no, what are those things they give out to tzedakah fundraisers? They do these Chinese auctions. There goes all the Chinese auctions and magazines. According to that. You're not supposed to be looking at things that you're going to be tempted to buy and purchase. Okay. He stretches this to much more. He quotes the chinuch that learns that subshan.
No, you're going to say the
That. It's funny. Okay, this is the following Mishnah is a very famous Mishnah because it's in the Haggadah. Masnisin, you have a Mishnah, the last Mishnah of the first parak. Maskir Nitzias Mitzrayim Baleilas. we mentioned that you say Parshas Vayomer. We said why you say it. It has those 5 things. But the Mishnah says you also say it in the Kriyat Shema at night. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That's the opening statement. You say it at night. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, Harayani Kiven Shivim Shana. Behold, I'm like 70 years old. His beard turned white. And V'lei Zachisi, how old is he really? 18, I think. V'lei Zachisi Shetiyam Mitzias Mitzrayim B'leilis. And Zachisi has 2 pshatim. Could be I didn't win over my friends, or I didn't merit to find a hint in the Torah that you should say Yitzias Mitzrayim at night, which means that you should say the 3rd section of Shema at night. Until Ben Zoma came along. Ben Zoma must have been a young man, if we don't have his first name. Shenemar Lamantiska Shem Tzes Chamer Tzimtzayim Kol Yemei Chayecha. It says that you should remember the day that you came out of Egypt, all the days of your life. Mei Chayecha Yamim. When it says the days of your life, that means the days. And Kol Yemei Chayecha is Haleilos. All the days of your life is the nights. It could be the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah held that when is the main Yitzias Mitzrayim at night? That's why we learned before that he says that you only have until Chatzos to eat the Karban Pesach. So he says that the main Yitzias Mitzrayim is at night. So you would have to say it and say that you would have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim at night. The Chum said the main Yitzias Mitzrayim was in the morning. Maybe that's the machlekes, and he couldn't convince them. Just like he couldn't convince them over when the end the last time for to eat the Karban Pesach was. That's the Gemara we had before. It's dependent on. The Chachamim say Yemei Chayecha Elam Hazeh, the days of your life that you have to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's this world. Kol Yemei Chayecha in some prints. Lahavi L'Meisa Mashiach, to include that you have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim after Mashiach comes. They would touch in Tabad. Kol Yemei Chayecha Lahavi L'Meisa Mashiach. All the days of your life is to bring Mashiach. That's our whole purpose. Okay. A little bit of an issue here. The Rambam doesn't bring this as a mitzvah. Just recite Yitzias Mitzrayim every night. It says you have to say it on Pesach night. He doesn't say that there's a deraisa to say Shema every night. If he passes things like the Chachamim, then you don't have to say it at night. But that's not true. We do say it at night. But it could be that the Rambam holds, this is say in the name of the Chaim, that any mitzvah that has an expiration date on it, it's only limited to a certain time, but it doesn't get counted as one of the 613. So if you don't say this after Mashiach comes, so that means it wouldn't be counted. You won't say it's Mitzrayim. Maybe that's the reason why it's not counted as one of the mitzvahs that you say it's Mitzrayim by day. Yeah, you say by Yomi by day. Why? It has a limit. Oh, yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. Very good. Trophy here. Tanya, Amalem Ben Zayim Lachacham. Ben Zayim test to the Chacham. Are you going to mention Yitzias Mitzrayim when Mashiach comes? I'll quote you a pasuk. You don't do that. I like Farnemar. It already says in a Yom Bam No Hashem, the days are coming. Says Hashem, you won't say that by the life of God that took like a swear that took the Jewish people out of Egypt. You're not going to say I talk about Egypt. You're going to say that by God that took us out from the land of the north and from all the lands that we were pushed away to, scattered. Amrulai, they said to they said to him, the Chachamim are telling Ben Zoma that you're right, but what it means is it's not that we're not going to mention it at all. We're just going to say it as a secondary thing. The main thing is going to be the exodus from this exile. But we'll mention also Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's how Ben Zoma, Amrulai. No, that's how the Chachamim say that we'll still be able to say it, even though Ben Zoma quoted a pasuk that we're not going. Kietz about the Omer. I'll give you an example. It says, Yaakov, your name should not be called Yaakov. Kim Yisrael Yeshmecha, your name should be Yisrael. Now, what does that mean? Even though it says that your name should not be Yaakov, it's just that Yisrael is the main name, and Yaakov is a secondary name. Now, this is not such a clear raya, because there's a special reason why we do that. That's because the Gemara is going to say later that because the Torah repeats it and says Yaakov. But naturally, maybe we would say not like that. That's an interesting thing. Rashi says the other way. Rashi says the fact that the fact that Yaakov still exists is proven by the fact that Hashem calls Yaakov later. From the Gemara was mashma that's
will still be there, just not the most important.
Okay. I see. I forgot to mention something. Yerushalmi says, why do we actually recite Shema and not the other things that we were recommending? It says because in the Shema it has a seres dibris. If you look carefully in the Shema, you'll find that seres dibris hidden in there. Yeah. Now we mentioned before that you don't say that seres dibris because of the meaning. But it could be hidden inside the Shema. That's okay.
37 Ashra.
Yeah?
I read it yesterday. It was amazing. Every single.
Oh, they
break it down.
Oh, they break it down. Oh, I didn't see. Very interesting. Okay, B'cheinu Oimer. It also says
where they are, where it's hidden.
Yes, it's in the notes.
So where they're hidden.
It's a long thing. It's Anochi Hashem. I am Hashem in God. And then it says each thing. It breaks it down.
Very interesting.
I'll show it to you. I'll give you a copy.
It also says, Al tisku rishonos v'kadbeinos al tispaininu. Don't remember the first things, and the early things don't meditate on. Al tisku rishonos zeshibed malchias. These are the other exiles that we're in. Don't remember them. You just remember, we're just going to talk about the last exile. The kadbeinos al tispaininu, and the early ones you shouldn't meditate on. Zu Yetzias Mitzrayim, this is the exodus of Egypt. Now, what this means is that there's a contrast here. First ones you don't remember. The second one you don't meditate on. That means that you still remember it a little bit. So that's a proof that Yetzias Mitzrayim is still going to be mentioned.
You do have to meditate on it, though, right?
Not after Mashiach comes.
Oh,
after Mashiach comes, the main thing is going to be the redemption from this exile, and Yetzias Mitzrayim is just going to be mentioned in like secondary. Behold, I'll make new. Now it sprouts. Rabbi Yosef says this is that Hinni Yosef Chadash is the end of the pasuk before. This is referring to the war of Gog and Magog, which will be before Mashiach comes. I forget which one is Gog and Magog, which one is the king, and which one is the nation. What is this comparable to? We go back on the whole story of it. La'adam, a person he's going on the road of Pagab Baizev, and he comes across a wolf, and he's saved from the wolf. He goes around, he's telling everyone, you should have seen what happened. There was this wolf, and he comes across a lion. He's talking to everyone, you should have seen this, I have this amazing. Then a snake comes, and he's saved from that. Sorry? It means he matched. He met.
Because Rashi used it in
Yeah, it could mean to hit, but over here it means like they met. They came across. He forgets the earlier stories. He's only talking about the snake. These the Mepharshim explain what each one of these animals represents, which one of the Yisrael also. The later troubles make him forget the earlier ones, and so we won't remember them the same way. I don't know, this seems to take away this Yetzias Mitzrayim. We won't remember it at all. But it must mean that it becomes not the main emphasis, at least. Okay, Avram, I should have said that more clearly. Avram to Avraham. When it says in Divrei Yomi, it says Avram, that's referring to Avraham. What's going on? It says, originally he was the father of Aram. That's an area. And the Lebesayf Nasa Avla Kala Olam Kulei. And afterwards it becomes Avraham. That's for the Kala Olam Kulei. Sarai is Sarah. He's Sarah. Betchila Nasa Sarai Lomas. First she was a minister for her tribe. Lebesayf Nasa Sarah L'Chalalim. Then she becomes a minister for the whole world. That's more plural. Sarai is singular. Sarah is more plural. Tani Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara says, Avraham, anyone that calls Avram, should be careful reading this Gemara. He violates a positive command. Avram. It says your name should be Avram. Avraham. You can't call him Avram. Rabbi Lezer, thank you. Rabbi Lezer says, Iver Balav. He violates a negative command. Avram. Your name should not be called Avram. Elamiyata, Hakir Lasara, Sarai, Hachinami, is it going to be the same thing? That if you say Sarai, Hasam Kuchabrichu Amar, Lavram. Over here, it was Hashem telling Avram what to call his wife. It wasn't a.
With Yosef and Yehosef, that's something different, right? I know he got the extra thing so that he remembered all the languages and everything, but that's
something that we learned from the Pesukim in Tanakh, where it says Yosef. And there wasn't a pasuk that says that he changed his name. The commentaries say that it could be when someone converts, they're supposed to change the name. Even if they had a nice name before, they're supposed to change the name. That would explain why Yaakov, his name doesn't get changed for real. Because it gets changed, but he still keeps the old one as well. Because his name, he was named he was Jewish before. And Avram, Yitzchak's name doesn't get changed. Only Avram gets changed. So that could be part of it.
Esther, a lot of going. She can't have the name as much as she likes the name. She has to change it. So I'm just saying, based on what you're saying.
It could be. We would tell people they would want to take a Hebrew name before we would tell them to wait, and we'll take it after. Based on this.
Or has a very different explanation
For the changing of the name.
They represent different titles and they're both necessary.
Oh, in Yaakov and Israel. Right.
Before you hang up, so I looked up the thing going back to Shimshon. So it's written in Sefer Gilgolim, which is going back to what's the name, Kabbalistic. And in Rosh Hashanah, in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Chafei Amud Aleph, it just says that Shimshon is referred to as Dan, and I've also heard that from that Dan came from Shevet Dan. So he came from Shevet Dan.
Well, Rashi says that.
He says it there. So then Chafei Amud Aleph. And I'm saying, but the Gilgal is in Sefer Gilgal. I knew I read it.
Okay, so we said referring to Sarai is specifically for a mitzvah for Avram, not for anyone else. Sarai is the Chalei Sikra Shema Sarai Ki Sarah Shema. Sarai, your wife, Sikra, you should not call her name Sarai, because Sarah is her name. Referring to Avram, that he shouldn't call his wife that. But for anyone else, they don't violate anything. Maybe if you call Yaakov, it's a problem because Hashem changed his name or the Malach changed his name. Yisrael, Shani Hasem, the Hadra Hadri, but there the pasuk repeats and brings it back. God appears to Yisrael at the vision in the night, and he says, Yaakov, he calls him Yaakov. Okay. Naftali says, mentioned the Torah that there's different there's different attributes that are associated with Yisrael, with Yaakov. Different times Yisrael is more higher and Yaakov is the lower level, depends on your
Wasn't it just the simple, like Yaakov was more the dense in one place versus Yisrael that moves around? Is that generally? I'm saying, isn't that generally that?
I don't know. Master Rabbi Yosef Bar Ravin. We came Rabbi Yosef Bar Zvida till now. That's interesting. We had Rabbi Yosef Bar Ravin before, and Rabbi Yosef Bar Zvida. We had Rabbi Yehuda Bar Zvida before. Just today. It says he asked a question. Atahu Hashem Elokim Asher Becharta Bi Avram. You see, the Navi calls. It's in Menachem. He calls he calls him Avram. That's a violation. Amalei Hasim Navi L'Shvachi D'Rachmana Ma'Dahavim Yikara. Over there, the Navi is saying that Hashem chose Avram even beforehand. So for sure, when he's afterwards, Hashem would choose Avram. Samta Shmai Abraham, he changed his name. Shot over there, they say, is that the Hey is understanding. Originally, he chose Avram without the extra Hey of Bina. Because it was a simple faith. But nevertheless, even after he became Abraham, even with the understanding, he still found that he had that simple faith. Because sometimes people get smart, they easily become sophisticated. There's a discussion in the Paiskim over here. How come this is not written in as one of the mitzvahs? They're not allowed to call Abraham Avram. And there's an Nimukei Griv that says that there's a commentary under the Marsha. It says that we have a conflicting Gemara in Sanhedrin that tells us that there's only one mitzvah that was said before Matan Torah and wasn't repeated afterwards. That's the Hanasha. So that Gemara tells me that this is not, that this obviously cannot be a mitzvah. So based on that, we'll have the conflicting Gemara so we'll follow the other Gemara, not this one. Otherwise, over here it doesn't say anyone either. Okay, Hayakir Batera, second paragraph. Someone is reading from the Torah. And we'll see exactly why he's reading from the Torah. It's not just that he's studying. And it comes time for the Shema. In Kivan Liba, if he intends for the Shema, then Yatsa. He's Yatsa. We'll see what intends means shortly. He fulfills his obligation of reciting Shema. The Prakim goes on, new section. If someone is in between paragraphs, Shoyol Mepnei HaKavod Umeshiv, he's allowed to ask someone, good morning. Shoyol means to say good morning, Shalom Aleichem, whatever, to someone that's honorable. And who is that type of person? Someone that he's obligated to honor, would mean his father or teacher. And he's also allowed to respond if the teacher, father, says to him, good morning. But if he's in the middle of the paragraph, in the middle, it's more strict. He asks only to someone that he's afraid that person could kill him. And then he responds also to such a person. Rabbi Meir. That's the words of Rabbi Meir. The Mefarshim over here have a big problem with Rashi, because Rashi says, the way I said it was that he's afraid that the person's going to kill him. I need a Mishnah to tell me that you're allowed to save your life. That's like the big deal. This is so the Mefarshim explain. I think it's a Rashash that Rashi doesn't mean that he's going to kill him if he doesn't say good morning. Rashi means someone that has the ability to kill him. He's not going to kill him if he doesn't say. It's just talking about the type of honor that you're supposed to give to such a person. Not that he's going to kill him for not saying good morning. Otherwise, you Machal Shabbos, you do all. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda says.
Maybe Rashi said that because this is Shma's Kabbalas Omachot Shemayim.
Okay.
And so you would think that, you have to, that's one of the things Yarov B'Al Yovel.
Wow.
So therefore, if you're in that situation, you're not allowed to say something.
Wow.
So now the doctor is saying you can't say something.
Wow. That's a chiddush. Very nice. Yeah, Dr. Stein's saying. Yeah. Could be that you would have to give up your life if not for this, if not for what the Mishnah says, because it's Kabbalah Samach Shemayim.
I did not read that anywhere.
How does that fall into?
We don't mind if you read it.
Three things.
That's why you get it.
No, that falls into the three things.
That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to put it into Avodah Zarah, into that it could have been part of Avodah Zarah. I don't know. To me, it's a big chiddush. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Be'emtza she'em lefnei yira." Either way, you don't sacrifice your life. You respond. That's what the shaila is. Why does the Mishnah have to tell that to me? That's the question. Be'emtza she'em lefnei yira. In the middle of a paragraph, Rabbi Yehuda says that you can ask because of yira. That means this important person that has the power to kill. But you're allowed to respond to anyone else, even in the myth, not to anyone else, to someone that's deserving of honor, like a teacher or father. But if you're in between paragraphs, then you can ask, even you can initiate the conversation to someone that's deserving honor. But you're allowed to respond and to reply to anyone that tells you good morning. If you're in between paragraphs, you're allowed to respond. Two Taisus over here that are very interesting. The top Taisus says that quotes Yerushalmi. Shalmi says that the brachas are not ma'akev Kriya Shema, because here he didn't say the brachas. It's a proof. The brachas aren't ma'akev the Shema. The brachas Avarabba and Yetzer Ameiris, that doesn't affect the Shema. He says, but then he asks the question. But we said before, yesterday, that the Seder brachas are not ma'akev. The order of the brachas aren't ma'akev, but the brachas themselves are ma'akev. So he answers that maybe that's referring to a tzibur, where it's ma'akev, because that was referring to the Beis Hamikdash. But a yachid, the brachas are not ma'akev. It's a big problem. It's a big problem in Taisus. The first problem is that no one ever said that the brachas are ma'akev the Shema. All we said is that the brachas are ma'akev each other. Say the brachas are ma'akev. That's a problem with Taisus Kasha. Another thing is, oh, good afternoon. It's nice Israel. So, also the Taisus answer is a problem, because it's worse. But tzibur, everything should be easier. You feel it should be accepted more. Here it's saying that it's worse. The tzibur and b'yachid it's not a problem. But tzibur it's a problem. Very surprising. The next Taisus says about talking. Okay, let's leave that place. It's about interrupting with talking in different places. And we'll see a little bit more later.
I wasn't reminded that I was talking about something about when you have a minion. One of the reasons why you have to make a dwelling place for Hashem. It's not only that possible that your tefillos can like go to Hashem and quickly. Also because it's just good that Hashem was like a better place over there.
Could be.
Everybody agrees. Everybody agrees that. You can't say.
You can always answer.
Right. And everybody agrees that you can greet somebody.
And you can even ask at any time.
Everybody agrees you can greet somebody of honor in the bucket.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're debating
Shalom l'chol adam and initiating b'fnei hakavod. Initiating b'fnei hakavod. Meir holds. Yeah.
Didn't we just learn the other day somewhere that you're always supposed to initiate?
Yes.
Shalom?
Yeah. That's you should go to him first. And if you don't respond, it was considered a gneva. Remember that? Elohim ben aprakim. These are the paragraphs, which means that in between them, that's where it's more lenient. Vein bracha rishayna l'shniya after Yetzer Maris before Rabba Salem. Vein shniya l'shema between Abba Chavam Yisrael the Abba and Shema. How come we're much strict about that? I don't know. We specifically are. Yeah. Vein Shema l'vayim Shemaya between Shema and Vayim Shemaya. Vein Vayim Shemaya l'vayomer between Vayim Shemaya and the third paragraph of Shema. Vein Vayim l'emes v'yatziv between Emes. I don't know if it means and Yashem Lekechem and Emes V'Yatziv, or if it means Yashem Lekechem Emes and V'Yatziv. I'm not sure what it means. Menachem, what do you think? If between Hashem Lekechem, what does that mean?
It says
Emes V'Yatziv. Yeah, it must mean. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ben Vayim Emes V'Yatziv L'Yatziv." Over there, you don't interrupt. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, another famous Mishnah. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says, "Who's Rabbi Shua ben Karcha?" Rabbi Kiva's son, because Rabbi Kiva was bald. So what we've learned. Lama kadma parsha Shema levayim Shemaya. Why is Shema before vayim Shemaya? Now that's not surprising. In the Torah it's before, but what could I have thought? Why does he have to ask this as a question? Vayomer is the first one, but Shema should be before Vayim Shemaya anyway. Right, I understand that, but saying why is Shema before Vayim Shemaya? The reason is because you kabbalah malchus Shemaim all mitzvahs. First, you have to accept Hashem. After you accept Hashem, then you can accept the mitzvahs. Mitzvahs are not just self-help things. It's because we're commanded by Hashem, right? That's very important. There's a whole discussion if belief in Hashem is a mitzvah. Not because that's a question if it's a mitzvah. The question is if it's so fundamental that it can't be included as a mitzvah. Like I forget who it was, the Barbanel or Brachos Daf, the Mitzvah he quotes. He says, "It's impossible that you have the one commanding you to believe in him, he commands you to believe in him, and then you believe in him before you believed in him. In other words, so it can't be a real mitzvah because I only believe in him because he commanded me to believe in him. So who commanded me to believe in him if I didn't believe in him? All right. So that's why they say that it can't be a mitzvah.
Rabbi, Rambam holds it's a mitzvah.
Rambam holds that it's a mitzvah. Right. So first you have to accept Hashem, then you accept all mitzvahs. Vayim Shemaya levayomer. Why is Vayim Shemaya before Vayomer? Now this is the big question of Nasan, because Vayomer is much earlier. It's in these two are in Sefer Dvarim. That's in where is it? Shlach. Vayim Shemaya naigdem Vayomer b'layla, because Vayim Shemaya has in it Torah, which is learned by day and by night, and Vayomer in a nayagala Vayim belvad. And Vayomer only has the mitzvah of tzitzis, which is only by day. Why do we wear tzitzis at night? It's from the Arizal. But the mitzvah of tzitzis is by day. Okay, Shema Mina, the Gemara now says, Shema Mina mitzvah shichas kavana. Obviously, from the fact that it says that im kivin li bayatza, if you had kavana, that means that you have to have kavana. The mitzvah shichas kavana. Right. Mitzvah slices say you don't have to not kill the guy. You can change Shemayim. Believe it, yeah. Oh, that's a problem. Yeah. Mayim kivenli, but the Gemara says no. It's not necessarily so that mitzvah shichas kavana, because we can translate if you have kavana differently. Kivenli is likris. If you had kavana to read, in other words, you don't have to have kavana to be yotze the mitzvah. You only have to have kavana to read it properly. Likrais. What do you mean to read it? It says that he was reading the Torah. What are you saying? He was reading the Torah anyway. If he reads it, then he was reading it. It says lagia. Over there, he was reading it as a cipher would read to edit, to make sure that he has the letters properly. So it's possible that, for example, if the to make sure he remembers that, so he wasn't reading it properly, and he wasn't reading it the way it's supposed to be read. He was reading it the way an editor reads it. It's good. Okay, so what does he have to do to be Yetzer Shema? To read it properly. Taner Rabbanan, start in the Brisa. Kriya Shema Kiksava. Kriya Shema needs to be said in Hebrew. Divrei Rabbi, that's the words of Rabbi. The way it's written. The sages say that you can say Kriya Shema in any language. I should mention that for anyone that's saying tefillas in other prayers in other languages, the art scroll siddur doesn't work, because it doesn't say Hashem's name. It says Hashem. You have to say, if you're saying a bracha, you have to say You have to say God or something like that.
How long are you allowed to say Shema in a different language?
I'm not sure what you have to look that up. My time at the Rabbi. What's the reason for Rabbi? The star is on the Chacham Maimer. So what's the reason for Rabbi? Amar Kra. He learns it from a pasuk. It says V'hayu, and it shall be. V'habiyasin, as it is, the way it is. I mean, it's the way it's in Hebrew. For Rabbanan Maitamayo. So what about the rabbis? It says it should be. Amar Kra Shema. It says the word Shema, which means you should understand. Any language that you understand. He quotes the Rambam. Any language that you understand, but you have to make sure that you say it properly, and you have to be medakdik, like you would be medakdik in Hebrew.
Wait, so you can't say it in any language?
Yeah, the Rabbi argues. Shulchan Aruch says, you can. Yeah. They have the story of someone that was reciting Shema, and he was saying Esav, but the ayin of Esav is very hard to pronounce because you have to say it from the ayin. An ayin. You understand? They're saying Esav. So after several times, someone told him Graz. That means grass. That's Esav, the translation. So he starts to say Graz. Okay. So what's the reason for the rabbis? It says because Shema means any language you understand. Rabbi Nami Aksiv Shema. What about Rabbi? It says Shema. That means you can understand any language. They have to enunciate it. They have to express it so you could hear it. Rabbanan Savrilu, they hold command. The Rabbanan say you don't have to hear it. The Rabbanan Nami Haksiv Vahayu. What about Vahayu? The rabbis say you can say it in any language. Vahayu means in Hebrew. Vahayu means to the rabbis, you can't say it out of order.
I have a question.
You want to hold?
Sure.
Yeah, I would just want to make sure I get to a place. Rabbi, where does Rabbi know that you shouldn't say it out of order? He learns from, it says, it could have said dvarim, and it says hadvarim. That tells me that it has to be in order. There's a mistake in our print in Rashi. If you look, Menachem, it says the Havalei Lemichta v'hayu hadvarim. It's got to be dvarim. It can't be that. That's the. And in yours it says v'hayu dvarim. They corrected it. Okay. Rabbanan dvarim advarim leidarshi. The Rabbanan don't learn from that extra hay. Okay, that's usually how these machlekes in end. Lemeimra the Savar Rebbe the Chalater Kula b'Chaloshen Emra. Does this mean to say that Rebbe holds that the whole Torah has to be read in Hebrew? I'm sorry. Rebbe holds that the whole Torah was said in every language. It has to be read in every language, and is allowed to be read in any language. Because if every other section of the Torah needs to be read in Hebrew, so why specifically by Shema does it have to say that it needs to be in Hebrew? It must be that everywhere it doesn't need to be in Hebrew, and only Shema needs to be in Hebrew. Taisvis asks, what are you talking about everywhere in the Torah you need to read in Hebrew? Who instituted to read the Torah? Everywhere in the Torah you can read in any language. Who instituted it? Ezra. You can't have that the Torah tells me how to read it, and Ezra comes and institutes it later. It doesn't make sense. So he says, no. Taisvis says, the Ma'iri beParshas HaMechuyav and Likris Deiraisa K'mei Parshas Zachar. That must be, according to Rabbi, I can read Parshas Zachar not in Hebrew. I can read it in another language. But Shema needs to be in Hebrew. There's a raya from Taisvis that Parshas Parah also, because it says, "Ma'iri beParshiyos."
Yeah.
How do you get Parshiyos? There's only one. It must be Parshas Parah.
Why was the Septuagint such a tragedy?
Oh, here you're saying that you do have to
That's
say
a good
Shema
question.
in Hebrew, right?
It's beyond the.
And then he said that he looked at Mr. Or whatever.
Maybe because it was changed.
So do you?
What? So Shema, you can the Rabbanan hold you can say Shema in any language. Rebbe holds in Hebrew. Said according to Rebbe, it must be everywhere else in the Torah. It could be in every language. That's why specifically here it has to be in Hebrew. So it's true.
It's a reasonable guess.
It says no. It's not necessarily so. It could be that Shema specifically is worse. Really, the whole Torah needs to be in Hebrew also. The problem is Mishum Diksiv Shema. Shema means that you should understand. So therefore, the Torah needs to tell me to negate the understanding. I have to say it in Hebrew, but really everywhere else in the Torah is also in Hebrew. Maybe the Rabbanan hold that the whole Torah has to be in Hebrew. If you were allowed to read the whole Torah in any language, so why does it say Shema? Anyways, I can read it in any language. It says no. It's Vahayu. I would have thought that Vahayu tells me that it needs to be in Hebrew. So Shema tells me. So in other words, we're not going to be able to prove what the rest of the Torah is based on what they say by Shema. So in the Bais, Vahayu teaches me that you can't read it backwards or you can't read it out of order. Hadvarim, when it says you take Kol Parsha Tzricha Kavana, maybe you have to read all Kol Parsha, the whole section with Kavana, with intention. Talmud Laimar Ha'ela. It says Ha'ela. Adkan Tzricha Kavana, Mikan Be'elachin Tzricha Kavana. Only till Vahayu Advarim Eila. Until there, that's where you need kavana. After that, not. Until I'll.
What does that mean? You need kavana, meaning that you have to go back. And you don't have to
Kavana. Yeah.
You're saying water because in Torah it's not in order. They are going to put it together.
Yeah.
So what are we
It would mean in the paragraph itself.
Oh, paragraph itself.
You say, let's say you said,
Rabbi, but the answer, that's the answer. That's right. Why you shouldn't go backwards.
We said why not to go backwards. We said either Vahayu. We said this one says Vahayu.
You are drawing, but the pasuk.
Okay, Vahayu Advarim Eila.
So it's interesting because if you read the word Levavecha backwards, it's Kebaba. You won't understand the words.
That's the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Interesting. That's Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus there. Amalei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, it says, that I command to you today on your heart. We cannot lamed. This teaches us to call a parsha tzricha kavana. Shekol parsha kula tzricha kavana, because it says which is a future. It didn't say asher tzibisicha. It means that the whole thing needs kavana. Amar Rabbi Barbachan Rabbi Yeshon Alach Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Barbachan says that the Allah is like Rabbi Akiva, that the whole first section of Shema needs kavana. Some learn this on what it says in the Braisa. Someone that recites the Shema needs to have intention. Only the first paragraph, which means of the Hafta. Amar Rabbi Barbachana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Alacha Karabacha, Hashem Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. What is Rabacha Mishum Rabbi Yehuda? That the first Perek Rishon needs to have kavana. Tanya Idach, we have another brayta that says, Vahayu, the word Vahayu teaches us, Shleiklam Afreya, Alavavecha. What does it mean on your heart? Rab Zutra, Imer, Adkan mitzvahs kavana, Mikan Belach mitzvahs kriya. Until here, you have to have kavana. Afterwards, you just have to read it. Rab Yosha Amar, he says, Adkan mitzvahs kriya, Mikan Belach mitzvahs kavana. The opposite. Until here, you only have to read, and from there on, you have to have kavana. I'm going to ask 1 second. Why would I say that I have to read it from there and on? In the second paragraph, it says, what is the daber bam? It says, as it says, in the second paragraph, so you have to say it. The first paragraph also says you have to say it. So the Gemara explains. The first paragraph you have to have kavana and say it. But in the second paragraph, kriya b'lay kavana. You say it without kavana. Gemara says 1 second. First paragraph says it should be on your heart and you should say it. On your heart means kavana. Hasam Nami, the second paragraph also, it says it should be on your heart and you should say it. It says, no, that L'daber bam, that alavavchem, rather, Haumi baile to Rabbi Yitzchak. That I need for Rabbi Yitzchak. Alavavchem, that intention that we have is something else. The Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, the Samtem, that's the very Eila, you should put these words in the tefillin next to the heart. That's what it's telling me, not kavana. Let me get until one more piece. Amar Ma, Rabbi Yosha says, Rabbi Yosha was the one that says that first you read it and then the kavana comes later. Adkan mitzvahs kriya, mikan ve'elach mitzvahs kavana. First is reading it, afterwards is the kavana. Maishna mikan ve'elach mitzvahs kavana, mishum d'ksiv alav avchem. Why do you have to have kavana in the second paragraph because it says alav avchem? Achanami, ksiv alav avchem. The first paragraph also says kavana, it says alav avchem. It says hachi kamer. Adkan mitzvahs kriya v'kavana. You have to read it and kavana. Mikan ve'elach kavana b'le kriya. The second paragraph, you just have to have kavana without reading it.
You don't have to read it.
Right. Maishna adkan, out loud, I guess. Maishna adkan mitzvahs kriya v'kavana. Diksiv alav avcha v'dibarta bam. Why the first paragraph do you have to read it and have kavana? Because it says the two things. Asamnami, haksiv alav avchem l'daber bam. But there it also says on your heart, and you should say it. It means you should have kavana and read it. It says ahu b'divrei Torah ksiv. Over there, the l'daber bam doesn't refer to Shema, it refers to studying Torah. And this is what the Eibus is saying. Agmiru Menachem Torah kehechi deligirsabu. That you should teach your sons Torah so that they should recite it. L'daber bam, that they should recite it, but it's not referring to the Shema. Let's leave it over here.
Thank you. All you're up to the first line.
Tomorrow Abba Nassim is going to teach. I won't be here in the morning.
I'll run that one so good.